in live and alive, as I like to say. So, just doing some artwork, another little live stream. I got pretty busy recently with life stuff, but now it's time to get back to work. So I'm gonna do some chill streaming here. Maybe I'll put some music on in the background, as I am wont to do. Had a really good stream recently about the White Art Collective monthly challenge. Anyway, let me put some tunes on here and we'll get cooking with you guys. A little bit of Baroque music today. Hang with me, my friends. It's nice to have some background music. Get the volume up a touch. Well, that's kind of loud, actually. Maybe not too loud. Welcome to Donald Kent Cartoon Theater. So this is the culmination of a story for the BIZARCHIVES comics. I'm about to finish this up and I'm going to send it off to the BIZARCHIVES shortly. It's a nice little gig that I got. I love these comic book illustration gigs. Used to do a lot more of that kind of back in the day, I guess, or some time ago. It's the life of a freelancer. You've got your 9-to-5 bread and butter job, and then you do what you love on the side, and you always wish that you could do this full time. Now I'm competing with the music. Hold on. Okay. Funny thing about classical music is it's like really quiet and then really loud, and then okay. So anyway, let's carry on here, my friends. Carry on, my wayward sons. So I will check the chat periodically and see what you guys are saying. Hopefully you're saying nice things about me, because my feelings get hurt so easily. You know what a buttercup I am. Don't say mean things. It's funny, that's like a life skill, is to have tough skin, especially with the way the internet is, or whatever. Blah blah blah. So here we are with our lizard lady showing her true face in this story. Sci-fi is fun. I've got this stuff on my mind. I'm just gonna kind of talk or think out loud here. I'm always looking for ways to use art as activism. Unless you're like selling a book, like my new book that I've got out, or you've got some kind of financial plan, marketing and all the whatnots that go with that, then kind of like activism art is more for your love of the cause. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to, it's just an oddball situation to kind of like do activism and try to make money from it. And I'm not criticizing that. I'm not saying that's wrong per se. Everybody's efforts and laborers deserve, proper compensation, etc., etc. Um, it's just tricky, I guess, is pretty much where I think I'm going with this. So, for example, my Militiaman graphic novel. It's very funny because, I mean, straight up, the story is about a kind of a MAGA superhero guy, kind of a Boy Scout, Captain America type figure, who gradually figures out that, you know, who's really running the government. I'll just kind of put it that way. And then his politics change. He's really badly brutalized by the system, and then he turns on the system and becomes far right, for lack of a better term. And then, but anytime I talk about the book or sort of promote it, people are a little bit confused because they don't know the ending of the story. And the MAGA people think, oh, you're too far right, and the far right look at me and say, why are you MAGA? Why are you going backwards? So it's a clunky situation to be in. It's a kind of deal where you want to promote the book, but you can't kind of give away everything, right? You can't, you know. And I, in a sense, already did to some extent by just sort of revealing that's kind of how the story goes. Um, but at the same time, people want to know what they're buying. You have to give. You can't. The packaging has to say what's inside. You can't just be like too super mysterious about it or whatever. Um, or I mean, there's the thought of like, well, don't talk about it at all until it's out. And just put the book out. I'm kind of relying on, I wouldn't say kind of, but like I am relying on the Comicsgate market. That will be the target market. Um, I think that people beyond that will like it, but Comicsgate is pretty much already set up or positioned in some regard to be anti-woke, comics. And I wouldn't say I'm not like 1,000% familiar with every single thing that comes out on Comicsgate, but I would say that not all of their comics are political. It's just that they're not filled with like race swapping and trans characters and all this crap that Marvel and DC are trying to force on comics readers. Then there's the added problem of, well, not everybody reads comics. That annoys me a lot because it's like saying, well, I don't go to movies because they're all romance. No, movies have action and horror and comedy. No, no, all movies are about romance, and I'm not crazy about that genre. It's like comic books are about anything under the sun, and they're just films on paper. I guess you guys are getting sick of hearing me preach about that stuff, but wow, I'm really pleased with the way this monster is coming out. Monsters are fun. I mean, it's fun to draw monsters. I dig it. So I'm gonna look at the chat and see if anybody's here. No, I see 2 likes, but nothing in the chat. Say hi if you can. I don't bite. So I posted something on Twitter today asking people, just a poll, I made a poll saying, now get ready for some controversy, okay? Is there a problem of misogyny inside the white identity movement? Are there a lot of men that are rude and abusive to the women in the movement? And I'm having a discussion with a good friend, kind of privately on this topic. And so I thought it would be interesting to put out, you know, a poll on the subject. And it's like one of these things where, like, well, if polls don't always really, right, they're not necessarily like a real gauge of truth per se, but because like already I'm getting comments from guys that are like, oh, don't oppress me, and they're kind of like already being, like reactionary or angry about just even the question. And so I'm like, it's not a good sign, on the topic. And I'm like, save that abuse for the left wingers. Don't treat our women that way. It's counterproductive and hypocritical to be, abusive to right wing women in the movement. And I can't abide by that. You know what I'm saying? But so, like, in the discussion I've been having with my friend, my theory is that this is primarily from uh, younger people, in the younger guys that are essentially from the gamer culture. And again, that's not a critique of gaming culture, but I think anyone in the gaming culture knows straight out of the gate that you guys banter and insult each other for fun. Like, that's just it's your culture. It's part of how, it's just what you guys do, and like, it's one of those aspects of the internet where, in real life, you would never talk to somebody face to face the way that you talk to them, you know, during a game or online. And I don't know. I just feel like it's a kind of a high school level maturity issue that, like, somehow being nice to women is gay or something, GHEY. Um, and that, or you're simping, and so the other guys will come out and like bash you because you're simping, because you were nice to a female, and like flirting and just being not rude are totally different things, it's like, doesn't, I think you get what I'm trying to say here. So I think a message needs to kind of go out that, like, if this kind of behavior exists, then it really should be discouraged. You know, um, but it goes way beyond that too, because in my estimation, I feel that the far right, the white identitarian scene is so ghosted and so, like, I don't know. I don't want to say we're not ineffectual, but we're cut off from the mainstream. We're deliberately ghettoized from the mainstream. And I feel like sometimes what's the word I'm looking for? We take it out on each other. It's kind of like like being in a prison and then eventually fights break out, kind of thing. That's kind of a harsh analogy, but like, why in the hell are we fighting with each other when we should be directing that energy towards our enemies? I mean, that is not brain surgery, what I just said, Um, I feel like it's just all flexing. I just feel like, for young guys that want to be cool and tough, it's like, well, how hard can you be, And if you don't agree with me on every minute detail of my political philosophy, then, you're a cuck or blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, this is just anti-productive and frankly childish behavior. Um, it's not like I'm the sort of, you know, lunchroom monitor, to come around to these high school kids and say, now you better watch your mouth or you're gonna get detention, you know. But I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about. And I'm fine with any kind of pushback on that if people want to say something rational and reasonable that, says, well, XYZ, and give your point, fine. I'm fine, But women need to feel comfortable in our sphere. Why would you want to make anybody in our sphere uncomfortable? I mean, I can understand needing to debate important topics and such. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like full on abuse, basically, and like specifically to women. So I'm not cool with that. I'm not cool with that. And I guess it's time for the men in the room to kind of stand up about it. You know, am I making myself clear? Don't make me call your parents. Anyway, I'm gonna see if there's anything in the chats. And it's funny that I'm talking about this while drawing this like evil woman, right? How ironic. Of course, that's meant to be a silly joke, but not very funny, I suppose. So yeah, what else is going on? I've been talking to Yiz, the Unifier. You guys, if you don't know who she is, shame on you. You should know. She's a major voice, and she, by the way, she's not the person I'm talking to about this misogyny issue. That's not her. Just to make that clear. Um, we we followed each other for a long time, and we're kind of friends in the sphere and this and that. So if I recommend tuning into her YouTube. One of the things that she does, and I'm ashamed that the name of the show is slipping my mind right now, but it's something like just her, oh yeah, Morning Walks, I think it's called. And it's just really lovely because it's really just clearly kind of like white well-being, like getting out in nature, treating yourself well, you know. Um, it's a nice show. And she does some decent editing on the videos, and they're just very pleasant. She has like a really pretty southern accent that's enjoyable to listen to. She's like smart and funny, so like those are really good traits to have in combination. Um, so we're talking about getting together. I think I'd be coming on her show. I think I misunderstood. I thought it was like a what do you call it? A board game show, where you do like role playing Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. My son is hardcore into Dungeons and Dragons. I've missed the boat on that, unfortunately. Like a lot of my friends did that in high school, and you'd think me of all people would be into that, but it unfortunately I don't know, just something that never kind of crossed my it didn't come together. I don't know how to put it. I think, I was really into music at the time. I was learning how to play guitar and bass, and I think maybe that's where I was putting my time. But anyway, so Discordant Dragons is her show, and it's got a lot of different people that come on the show, and it looks like I'm going to be on the show. So I'm excited about that. Something to look forward to. I've been trying to set up more shows, more, you know, getting people to come on and just have themes, of course. It's not just like, aimless banter, There's a lot of shows actually that are like that. And I'm not sure like that's such a terrible thing. If you like the culture of, whoever you're listening to, that's fine. But I don't know, I'm always kind of trying to crack the code on like, well, how can we do shows that have some kind of activism to them, that do something, because I guess I feel kind of tired of talk shows. Um, I guess that really depends on who's talking, though. So, yeah, and we all know, kind of who we like and who we don't like, and who we follow and who we don't. Um, there's a certain amount of like celebrity and all of that. One person I enjoy a lot is Geo, um, uh, hailing out of Canada. Uh, Obviously, he's an artist, and into that. So like, it's there's always that kind of extra bonus there for people like myself. But he's extremely bright, extremely like plugged in to our movement, and honestly, he talks over my head sometimes because he uses a lot of like, you know, uh, it's not like slang words, but like when you abbreviate into just the letters of something, and I'm like, you just lost me there. Like, who are you talking about? Don't say the name of the person or the topic instead of like coding everything into these like, things that are easier to text. Don't talk in text, talk in English. So that I can kind of follow. But this is me. Like I always try to have a, I don't know, I just sort of advocate for new people. Like if let's say this is the first time somebody came to Donald Kent art, they'd be like, okay, what's this guy about? Well, he does art. He talks to himself in the studio. No, I do have friends. I do, yes. Um, what 11, 12? I don't know what time it is right now. Like it's sort of morning time and on a Tuesday, so like people are at work, so it's not likely. There might be people in Europe. I've got a ton of fans, followers in Europe that might be able to pop on at some point. Most of my shows, my sort of shows, like shows about stuff, not art streams, are in the evenings, and I'll try to schedule those on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometime when I'm pretty confident that people can come to the show or watch the show. Mm, anyway, so that's what's up. What else? So I guess I will devolve into the topical well of information. So like today, the news came out that the government is saying something about they've got UFO technology. Alex Jones has something, but Fox News is talking about it. So it's, supposedly mainstream, right? I mean, and one of the ideas out there is that a kind of a fake alien invasion is theorized to happen to mobilize governments around the world into a one world government. So, because you have to ask, like, why now? Like, why would the mainstream media say this? What do they have to gain by telling the public, oh, the government has UFO technology, or, you know, and the whistleblower came out and told us this. Really? Anybody with internet knows, or could know, like, so much about it. Like I have researched for 17 years. But it's just funny how they talk about things like it's the first time you ever heard it. Wow, this pen is dry. No, it's not dry. I'm not just not doing this right. The other thing is how stories like UFOs or whatever, they help to memory hole other kind of more important stories, um, of which there's a lot. There's so much going on out there. Let's see if we can do this. Let's be a bit better. So to my knowledge, and anybody who is knowledgeable about like the ufology, the government has had UFO tech for a long, long time. A lot of it ties into so many other aspects of politics that it's hard to keep track of. And the meme of the guy with the cork board and all the papers and pinned to the board and all the strings going from one pin to the next, and he's trying to explain a conspiracy, that comes to mind, but that's kind of sucky how anybody with alternative information is just always seen through this kind of darker lens that, like, oh, UFOs, yeah, all right, okay, sure, okay, yeah, what do you got to say about it? Um, well, it's like it's kind of like if we tried to explain Hitler to a normie. Oh, really? Yeah, okay, what do you got to say about it? Their mind is already closed. They don't want to know history. They don't want to know the truth. It's just so much more comfortable to just, go along with the rest of the narrative and the sheep. And, I feel like everything is about conformity. Like, people just don't want to be different. They don't want to change. They don't want to think. And you challenge that with truth, woo! You are enemy number one. Anyway, let's see if there is any chat going down. Not yet. But we got a couple people chilling, watching the show. Is the music okay? I could put some jazz on. Some people in our sphere, like, hate jazz. They, like, despise it. And I got in, like, not an argument or whatever, but like a bit of a, I don't know, it's like a playful internet banter fight, like not a real fight kind of fight, with Richard Spencer over jazz. This is just on Twitter, like, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, I don't remember, but it was kind of funny. I was like, oh yeah, I think I might have posted some jazz or something, and he was like, oh, and he went off on it. And then I like posted more jazz just to be a troll kind of. And I mean, it's harmless. I'm not, whatever. But and then he said something like, "Oh man, you're going down a rabbit hole here, buddy. Like you're throwing yourself into the pit. Because like." Most of his followers are just like sycophants. They're just like agreeing with everything he says, and then I put a meme on there of like a sort of a skydiver type guy jumping into a giant hole. It's just funny. I thought it was funny. Anyway, so Richard purchased some of my art some while ago. I'm really curious to see, like how he framed it or whatever, what it looks like now. Anyway, so yeah, this is coming together nicely. So, my last show was introducing, excuse me, the monthly White Art Challenge. Um, it's a group created by Jay Ladark. It's part of the White Art Collective culture, and so the topic I'm trying to bring up here is that it's kind of the question of like, should art in our sphere be propaganda or not, and like it doesn't really have to be either or. It's not like that's not actually the way the truth is, but there's been some pretty heated debates about that. I really don't see why you can't have your cake and eat it too. I don't really think, I'm not like anti propaganda, and I'm not 100% just aesthetics. You know what I'm saying? Um, oh, it's quite a hot little piano solo there. So, hmm. But anyway, so the White Art Challenge group has largely folk crafts. So folk crafts, that's kind of new for the White Art Collective. The White Art Collective really is mostly musicians, and or has been. There's obviously some visual artists like Jay and Ladark and myself, but this new generation of creators coming in uh, do a lot of European folk crafts, and I think that's cool and that's great. Excuse me. I think it's interesting how that plays into the whole theme of what is white art, what is white well-being in terms of like what we're trying to do as a culture. Um, yeah, so I would strongly recommend checking out the show. There's some very, very good takes on there, good conversation. My kind of like art teacher personality came out like big time. Like the Donald, the art teacher, was on full blast at some points in there. Um, and I think that is a good thing. That it helps to. I think it's important that you have people who are actually, how do I say, like certified in art or have some kind of real background in the field to talk intelligently about it. And excuse me, that's obviously for the benefit of the culture, and our people here. So um, all work and no play makes white identity a dull boy. You gotta have some fun time, some culture. I mean, I think memes do that a lot for us. Um, but we're not just Pepe's. There's so much more to our sphere, and with so many creators. But I would say that the problem is getting the art to the people. And a lot of that has to do with you. Like if you can share, comment, like all of those goodies. So that brings up another kind of interesting topic, the topic of marketing. Oh, there's an exciting thing. You just lost like all your viewers. you know, like boring, like who wants to talk about marketing? But it's like, I would say kind of like the Achilles heel of the movement. Like, we don't, I don't know, we don't treat the movement like a business. I think we should. Um, I mean, look at say Red Ice Radio. Now, that operates very much like a business, like it's a legit quality journalist site, or news site, if you will. And you wouldn't think anything about seeing kind of like a commercial for that or something. And when I say commercial, I don't mean like, a black guy with a white woman in a suburban home, trying to, like, or like a gay couple's selling toothpaste or some garbage, that's kind of, you know, woke stuff. But, on the other hand, I think maybe it's partly because we don't want that mainstream. How do I phrase this? Like, everywhere you go is just commercials, right? Everything is about just, marketing shit and selling shit. And it's tedious and irritating, and it smacks of just inauthenticity. So, like, we don't want that when we go to YouTube shows in our sphere. We don't want that, when we're scrolling Twitter or Gab or whatever. It's just irritating. But I suppose there's probably ways that we could market our stuff that's fun, and we could be more inventive about it. This part of this character is always tricky because he has chainmail on. And what I'm doing is using in comic book history, you have Prince Valiant, who had chainmail, and Hal Foster, who was the artist, creator, writer of Prince Valiant, he invented this kind of like mm, whatever that is, like this graphic. It's like little U's that you draw, as a kind of visual shorthand for chainmail. And I mean, who's going to draw 10,000 little metal circles, over and over and over in a comic strip? It's maddening and tedious and insane to even think to do that. So he came up with this technique, which I think is really nice. So I'm using it here. And you gotta figure, like, when people look at a comic strip or a comic book, how long do they actually look at an image while they're reading? There's a certain pace that you go through the pages. You're you're looking at a page and you're establishing, like, oh, this woman is, she's kind of sitting up, she's shocked at what she's seeing, change the camera angle, the main character fighting the villains, you got this dramatic fire in the background, it's a violent scene, there's like high action, da da da. And usually there's word balloons in here, that are saying things, or sound effects. So when you're reading the story, you're going, bang, bang, bang. And so you might not linger, well, you might linger on her boobs or something, but you might not linger on an image for super long because you're in the flow of the story. But then what's cool about comics that film does not have is you can go back and just look at a page, and kind of like soak it up and enjoy the art, or reread the scene over. Like, you don't, I mean, of course, on, like, say, DVD or something, you could, rewind, but I don't think anybody really does that. I don't think that's like, I don't know, it seems a bit weird. Most people don't look at movies that way. But comics just lend themselves to that. get kind of quiet when I'm concentrating on stuff here. This requires a little, little extra concentration. So now I'm thinking about, you know what, maybe I should black out some of this to create some shadow. This whole thing is just black and white. There's no color in it. So in a sense, you're coloring with shadow, with tone. As you can tell with this piece here, I'm using a lot of pencil gray tone. You know, I like the chalky, scratchy texture of it. I'd like to do more of this. I think this is, I've used like Copic markers to gray tone, and those are great. They look beautiful, but they're very smooth and they have no texture really. I suppose you could get texture, but it just seems to me like pencil, charcoal, this kind of, it's not really charcoal, but like darker pencils. I don't know. I just think this is really sweet, like that kind of texture on the wall. And it's more lively. That's all I can say. Like it has more energy to it. When everything's just plain black and white like this, it's very graphic, which is attractive to the eye. But you know, I'm looking at old-fashioned comics as like Conan comics. So we got some chat happening here. Let's take a look at what we're seeing here. T-Rad, Totally Rad Dad is here. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining me. CP Webster, good to see you again. Good afternoon. I suppose you're in England. Stoked for BIZARCHIVES 5, Mr. Kent. Thank you. I'm in there too. Sweet. Yes, CP Webster. Gosh, if you could put a link to BIZARCHIVES in the chat, that'd be pretty sweet. Rad Dad says, going to share that chainmail technique with my drawer at home. Oh, very good. You got an artist at home. I was actually thinking that I should do some art lessons on my YouTube channel. You know, I'm an art teacher, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, well, why have you not thought to do that yet? You know, the idea just occurred to me since I had that show yesterday about the monthly white art challenge. And you know, there's some people in there that are kind of like self-taught artists, and it occurred to me, you know, they could use a little help. So I feel that it's, I don't know how to say this, but like I'd like anybody and everybody to be able to enjoy my channel. And if it's just like art lessons, and the whole channel's not going to turn into art lessons, but you know, that's just, it's not something everybody can really or would really want to watch. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, but I figure I could at least put one out that is like, you know, here's some primary information that you should know. Here are the problems that you're having with your work, and here are the answers to those problems. That kind of thing, you know. This is not easy stuff to do, guys. There's many layers of knowledge that are being applied simultaneously. You know, it's kind of like playing classical piano in a sense, where you got two hands working and 80 keys. You know, in art, you've got composition, you've got anatomy, you've got lighting, you've got tone, color, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's a gigantic symphony of elements and principles. Excuse me, I did excuse me, I did a show on No White Guilt years ago on the elements and principles of art, to try to get our people more like visually educated, you know, how to look at art, how to understand art. It's really important because, you know, Western art is a massive part of our heritage. And if you don't have the education to understand what you're looking at, you're missing out, and it's a kind of a bad thing. I would say, like, okay, same goes for music, or how many other things. It's kind of like learning a language in a way. Only it's not as hard as learning a language. But once you get the elements and principles and you understand them, um, wow, like it's you suddenly see so much more, and it's so much more exciting and enjoyable. Um, so there you go. All right. Yeah, Dave is doing amazing stuff with the BIZARCHIVES. One thing that I love about it is how he has brought together great writers from our sphere. It seems to me like most of them are from England. I don't actually know. Dave Martell would obviously know that, and for me, I'm a massive like Anglophile. I'm a massive Anglophile. I'm 50% English myself, so you know, do the math. I just adore my English brothers and sisters, and there you go. I really hurt inside a lot for the kind of shit that England is going through. That's devastating, you know. Massive fan of Mark Collette. Strongly urge everybody to follow Mark Collette if you're not already. Tremendous human being. I'd say, gosh, in our sphere, he's certainly easily one of the top guys. Easily one of the top guys. On so many levels, too. Like, it's not just his charm and intelligence and his ability to speak well, which is quite awesome, actually. He's really good at just like debating and discussing anything, which is like, to me, a very English trait. Do you understand? Like an educated English trait. But he does real life activism, and this is for me personally, the frustration is I've always been trying to get that off the ground in my community, and I've just had really bad luck, and I just can't find people who want to work with me locally. Yeah, I've got my local, you know, based bros, who are I won't, that's private stuff. I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm talking about like, the Patriot Convention stuff and all that other stuff. You know what? The music is a little loud for me. I feel like I'm yelling. Um, but like, if you guys have any questions for me, hit it up. You know. All right. All right, that's better. Now the other thing too is I gotta have a sip of coffee here, or I'm just gonna fall to pieces. Hold on. Coffee. Now, check me out. Black coffee with honey. Give it a try. Because I'm, how do I put this? I've just cut out dairy out of my diet primarily. I mean, I might have some cheese once in a while. I freaking love cheese, but I'm just trying to change the diet, and I've lost a lot of weight and all that stuff. And so dairy, so like, usually I put cream in my coffee, but I'm trying to go black. Don't make any jokes about that, guys, please. Okay. All right. Back to the action. So, What else is going on? UFOs. That is so cool. So here's a crazy thing. I'm just going to muse on this for a little bit. It's like anything in life. You take you approach it like a detective. Imagine like you are a lawyer and you have to prove, whatever UFOs or um, government involvement or any of that stuff, anything related to the UFO world, right? So how are you going to prove it in court? Okay, well, what's your evidence? All right, well, what would a lawyer do? What would a detective do? They would get corroborating evidence. They would get testimony. They would get photographic video evidence, and they would present it to the jury, and then let the jury decide. Is this true? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Is there enough evidence to state that even though I wasn't there and I didn't see these things for myself, blah 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 blah, I believe that it is true because the evidence shows it. So I could fucking easily prove UFOs and aliens and the government involvement with the data that's available on the internet, and it's massive. It's ridiculously massive amounts of data that literally it's a faucet of data that is gushing out day after day after day. So yes, there's quite a lot that we don't know, and I'm sure there's much more that we don't know, but we certainly know that this is a thing that's real and exists. And so what you do is you kind of, go around to different resources and try to establish like, okay, who can I trust? Who's in this for real and who is a double agent, or not double agent, but like what's the word? Counterintelligence. One resource I would look at is called Project Camelot. Project Camelot. Now, I'm not saying like every single thing that they report is true or whatever, and not everything. I mean, how do I put this? They're basically like truth seekers. You know what I'm saying? So they go out and I mean they travel the world and interview people and gather data on all things paranormal, UFO, psychic phenomenon, government involvement, and frankly, this is very, very dangerous work. This is extremely dangerous work. You have to wonder, like, how much are they not telling us? Because you know, people disappear from talking about this kind of stuff. It's not a joke. But Project Camelot is something that you could look at. What's really tough is that you'll find guys out there that have amazing like inside lines to information, whatever, like all that. But then someone will come out and like sue them for something, or someone will try to defame them, or something will come out that shows like, ah shit, they did this one thing that like tarnishes their reputation. So then you have to say like, okay, well, does that change the truth of the data? Like maybe that person fucked up once. Yeah, but does that mean that the thing they said is not true? You see where I'm going with this? It's not really. You have to try to be very objective about these things. And there's it's a spectrum of like, okay, I believe this to be true because the evidence proves it, and then there's, well, this is very interesting and it's still under investigation kind of thing. And then there's the kind of like, well, that's just speculation. It's interesting and it seems to be related to XYZ, but I'm going to hold off judgment until I have more information. You see what I'm saying? So like these are like the folders, if you will, of like when you're doing research into UFOs and all that, you've got the like, this is true folder, this is the under investigation folder, this is the speculation folder. And then when you have like corroboration between many points of information, it it's just fascinating. So there's another show. What's it called? Oh God, what's it called? I want to say like Journalist X or something. Oh, Dark Journalist. Dark Journalist. That guy is the best resource on UFOs, specifically how they relate to government. So our people in our sphere care a lot about government. We're very political. So, but one of the things I would criticize about our sphere is that we are very, I don't know what the word is for this, but it's like we care too much about looking like we're wrong. Like we don't, I don't know. Everybody wants to be based. Sometimes you gotta, step out on a limb and be like, you know what, I think this is true. I'm gonna talk about this, even though people might mock me out, And when you find out that, the government has files on all these things, and there's just tons of documentation about it, then you realize that the people mocking you out are actually the assholes. Like that's actually how it works. Because like it's fine. How do I say, like, so long as you come out and you're saying, okay, well, I heard about this or I saw a report on that, and that's fine. If you're kind of coming out and saying like this is 100% true, well, you really have to prove it, right? You can't kind of make these bold statements and not expect people to challenge you. That's fine, right? That's the normal. Like if I was to say like Hitler was right, okay, well, why what's your documentation to blah 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 blah. You get what I'm trying to say. Like I say, if you just approach everything like a lawyer or a detective, I think you're fine. You can say, well, the evidence shows that it's most likely that you know this event happened, whatever. So how I like to frame things or talk about things is by saying stuff like, it's believed in the UFO community that, for example, like this news about the dude coming out to talk about, the U.S. government has UFO tech. Well, I would say it's believed in the UFO community that a fake alien invasion is going to be staged to trigger a one world government, to kind of like set the stage for a one world government. And in order for us to survive this alien invasion, we must come together. And Klaus Schwab has a great idea, and he's going to tell you all about it right here in his Bond villain accent and his Jedi vest. Anyway. So this is kind of fun. I'm really pulling up the tone in this. I really could be doing that with pencil though, so maybe I'll back off a little bit here. Let's see if there's any chat. You guys are like, Kent is crazy. BIZARCHIVES, going to share it. It's about 50-50 Anglo-American writers in the BIZARCHIVES, but yeah, we Brits are well represented. Beautiful. I love it. Okay, that's good. All right, so let's move on over to this bit here. It's really difficult to draw this because it's such a strange thing. anatomy is not like normal anatomy. It's a sort of half human, half lizard. It's quite grotesque, actually. Let's see if I can do it any justice. I don't know. I really hope that people can understand what it is by looking at it. So I've got to be very careful. Alright, sorry. I never know if I'm like making an ass of myself when I do when I do an English accent, or if people are like, ah, good job there, bloke, you know. I don't. It's fun, I can say that, you know, it's fun. I feel like my Scottish accent is too forced. It's like such a hard accent to do. I wonder if like the common English person can do a good Scottish accent. That's an interesting idea. What I really want to learn how to do is a Mark Collette accent. If I could do like an impersonation of Mark Collette, that would be hysterical, I think. And obviously done out of love. I mean, I adore the guy. I admire him to the sky, you know. So it wouldn't be, you know, it'd be for fun, you know. That's the thing about Mark is of course, he's got a specific accent, you know, to his region, you know. But Mark also he's very animated when he talks. He's very kind of excited, you know, when he talks, and it's really interesting to. There's an energy there that I think is contagious, you know, and I like it. It's nice. He's really easy to follow. So if I ever learned how to do a Mark Collette accent, there would also be some kind of acting involved in terms of like capturing that kind of energy that he has, you know. And I'm not going to try to do that now, but it's just fun. And I've had him on my YouTube as well for Imperium Art. So I'm trying to get Philosophicat on to do, believe it or not, an Imperium Art show. I kind of, I won't say I wrapped it up or whatever, but I haven't really done anything. I feel as if like, you know, I did that and I'm just kind of moving on with whatever. But she would have, she would be a great candidate for that show. You know, super bright, very very aesthetically sensitive person. You know, I think she would have a lot of interesting things to say that would be very valuable to the topic of the arts in the white well-being culture. It's funny because it's like there's a lot of people out there that are like, "Hey, Donald, yeah, man, I want to do this show. Let's hook it up. Like, get in touch with me." And then the things just kind of just don't materialize. I just spoke to Josh Neal and about like, "Hey, man, let's do a show. Just for fun, just more of a fun banter kind of thing. Like, he's been working with Jefferson Lee on his show. Jefferson Lee's made a huge comeback. Um, I think that he and his wife had a child and took some time off for that. That's all fine and well, but it's nice to see he's back on the scene. Um, that's not the kind of thing that Josh and I would do, though. I don't think. I mean, we have our own chemistry, which is unique. Um, I have to say, like, there really should be like a documentary on Josh Neal. He's a guy that has been around so much and like right in the field of like where the big things have happened in the movement over X amount of time. And of course, he co-hosted with Richard Spencer for a long, long time. He had his own show. Um, he's just talked to everybody, everybody and their uncle, Um, so like, here's a guy that's got so much history and experience. I wouldn't. There's nobody you can compare him to, but like, let's think of like a Charlie Rose or somebody, who has had politicians and actors and authors and scientists and like so many people on his show that somebody like that would be extremely knowledgeable about so many things. So this is kind of what I'm saying about Josh Neal. Um, I think when he and I talk, it's a little more on the fun side. Like it's a little not so heavy. Like when he's working with, say, uh, Tyler Hamilton. He's got to read books and shit to get ready for those shows. He's got to put huge amounts of time into not just doing research, but coming up with his own sort of response to all of these things, and then being able to discuss it on the shows. Da, 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 da. So like he can you know he can banter with the big brains, and then he can kind of shoot the shit and have a laugh with the rest of us. So he's a really extraordinary person. Uh, and I had the very, very good fortune of meeting him some time ago. Um, I don't know if I feel like that's such a long time ago that maybe it's safe to talk about. I don't know if he would want me to talk about that, but it was really funny because like he didn't know that it was me, and I was approaching him. There were other people from our sphere at this event, and I'm walking up to him with a kind of like I'm striding towards him like I'm. So he had this kind of look on his face like, who the fuck is this guy? Like is this some nutcase that I have to deal with? Oh shit, like it was that kind of a look on his face. And and then like and I'm nerding out because I'm a huge fan. I'm like, oh my god, it's Josh Neal. Like I'm so happy to meet him. And so I got this big smile on my face, and he's looking at me like, who the hell are you? And then I just said, Donald Kent. And wow, like the huge smile exploded on his face, and his arms swung out, and he gave me a giant hug, and it was like so funny. It was just like a really great memory of that time. the event that we enjoyed hanging out, So yeah, man, that's just so cool. Like, there's just so many. To me, these people are legends. Like, they're legendary. There's so many people in our sphere that have done so many cool things. Jeff Winston, Hirath, Nullis. I haven't, contrary to what everybody thinks, I've never met Nullis, even though we're super super close friends. Best of buddies, and like we've done so much together online, um, but we haven't physically met. And I'm not. I hate to say this. I don't know if this is, I don't know, lame or something, but like I don't actually like traveling. I did a huge amount of traveling in my youth. I mean, I lived in Asia, lived in New York City. I've been around. I've been to the Caribbean many times. Um, Now it's just annoying. I just like having to take time off and get this and that together and da, da, da. I don't know, especially I think like COVID really kind of ruined it for me because I'm really nervous about like the kind of people that I'll be stuck on a plane with. You see all these horror videos of like black people in airports and on planes, and when you're stuck inside a plane with like crazy people that are violent and shit. You know what I'm talking about? Like, so I'm not. You get the idea. Like, I just don't. I don't want to be. I don't want to have to be forced into situations like that. Um, and I'm not a road trip guy. Like, I just like sitting in a car for 12 hours or something and watching the road go under the wheels is like maddening to me. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just kind of grew out of it. Whereas when I was young, oh man, I was all over the place. I was having a really cool time. And a lot of the younger people that I know, like in their 20s and whatnot, that's pretty much what they're doing now. They're like hopping over to, Detroit to see a techno show, or they're going to a concert in uh, Colorado, and then they're da 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 da, all that stuff. So yeah, that's fine. Just be safe. Whenever I hear somebody saying like, "Oh, I'm going to Cancun or I'm going to Mexico," or da, 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 I'm like, "Well, don't leave the resort." Because they're gonna, you know, these kind of like I'm talking about like nurses who are, they have like so many days off and all kinds of money to blow, and they think that having vacations in Mexico is more meaningful than having children. These type of people, you know, uh, well, whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, I kind of have to snap out of that. I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of cool stuff. Um, the main thing for me is that I've got so many friends in Europe. So, like, if I'm going to go anywhere, I want to go to Europe. And first stop would be Ireland, of course. See Jack White. I have another real close friend in Ireland. All right, what else is going on here? No, mate, accent is good. Oh, whew, thank you. Oh my God, I was just about to destroy myself. I'm gonna tilt this a little bit so you guys can see what I'm off screen drawing here. Um, I can't do Scots. It sounds okay to me, but not to Scots. That's a thing. And obviously, some Scottish people have extremely thick accents that, like, you need, like, some kind of app to understand what they're saying. And others not so much. But anyway, there you go. There you go, laddie. Don't make fun of the Scots because they'll crack your skull open like it's nothing. Forget about it. But I'm also Scottish, and so I think that's kind of sort of why I do these things, because I think it's kind of fun, and I don't know. It's just fun. Um, what else? I think Irish is fairly easy to do. The Irish accent, I should say. Um, there was a show that I was on with Nullis and Jack White on. He did a Nullis did a show on Irish poetry, which is world famous, right? Like that's an excellent topic to do a show on. And being Nullis and doing a poetry show, you have to do a show on Irish poetry eventually. Um, and I'm ashamed to say I forget the name of the other guest. It was a lovely young woman poet on the show as well. And for a joke, I got courageous and I did a little Irish accent, and she was like, "Oh yeah," I know she just loved it. She thought it was really good, and I was like, "Oh, thank God," because if it wasn't good, then Jack would be coming over here with his shillelagh to crack me in the head. So anyway, there's another guy right there, Jack White. Wow, like there's so many extraordinary people in our sphere. Like for starters, his music is so revolutionary. I mean, it's so good just as music alone. But the themes and the way that he talks about the topics, of everything to do with our cause, our condition. It's freaking powerful stuff. I can remember first time I met him, I was like, dude, shit, man, your stuff is freaking hardcore. It's so powerful. He wrote a song about Sky King, who was that white guy who basically like stole an airplane, and he knew he wasn't gonna come down. He was gonna kill himself. Very, very tragic story. He's like an icon in our movement. And of course, there's like recordings of him. They're trying to talk him down and get him to land the plane, and he's like, "Oh, you think you guys could give me a job?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm a white guy. You're not gonna give me any help." It's very, very terrible. It's a very serious stuff that the kind of demoralization that our people feel, all of that stuff. So making a song about that is quite profound. Um, I'm channeling the spirit of Dave Martell right here in this space. I think Dave would be pleased. But I got to get this to him. He's already paid for it, so I got to wrap this up and get on with my other freelance work. I'm doing T-shirts. Check this out, guys. I didn't find one of my previous clients. I didn't know this, but he is a TV executive, TV production executive, and he's got a pitch for Netflix. And now, yeah, I know, I know, Netflix, the Jews, I know. But at the same time, I'm like, shit, if I could get my foot in the door at Netflix and like make a couple $1 million, you know what I'm saying? Then, I could fund our content. You see where I'm going with this? So I am going to be working that channel. Um, that I think that gig is going to start in August. He's hiring me to do some storyboards, da da da, and I know for a fact that my art is going to get in front of people at Netflix. So of course I have my own stories that I would like to pitch. If I I'm thinking like, well, what's a good strategy here? Like, should I start off with something that like I know for sure they would take it. They would like, you know, make it a show or a movie out of. Which it would obviously have to have like, Jewish messaging in it and stuff like that. Or should I not, like, because it's like a cardinal sin, in our movement. But at the same time, if I can take their money and then use it for our purposes, are you getting where I'm going here? So yeah, and I mean, I'm really letting the cat out of the bag here talking like that, but I don't know, whatever. Um, so yeah, this is something that's kind of on my mind because, like, okay, like I've got the graphic novel stuff that I do. Um, I could do some superhero stuff. I could do horror. I could do anything. Honestly, I'm capable of doing pretty much anything. So what I would essentially do is almost like an AI. In fact, I could even use AI to say like, what would be the perfect Netflix pitch? I shouldn't have said that because now somebody else is going to do it. And they'd be like, okay, this show has to have these elements. You got to have, you know, a, the bad guy's got to be like a white suburban male who is the CEO of some corporation, and and the hero is going to be a gay female teen who is discovering her, and her best friend who is like a black guy that really wants to be with her, and it's all the usual kind of shit that you come to expect from Netflix and all of that. Now, I don't think every single thing on Netflix is like that. There's other stuff that's just generally like idiot fodder. It's just like shit to waste your time to, that kind of thing. The I hate to say this, but like I think the majority of people out there are just pretty fucking stupid. Like they have no taste, and it's bad. It's pretty bad. But this is the reality of the world. It's not everybody is into you know Evola, or this kind of stuff. So whatever. My goal really would be to try to make some money. To get my content or our content out there, and that's that. Like I'm. Should I compromise my values to make that money so that I can move forward? You know. What do you guys think? That's an interesting conundrum. What are your thoughts on that? I'm reading here. No, I can't do Scott. So yeah, please respond to that question. That's an interesting question. Okay, coffee time. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Hmm. And I'm proud to say that I buy honey from my local farmer's market. So there's a dude, an old guy and his wife that have like a bee farm. And me, it's like, oh, I want to have a bee farm too. Like you can't do everything, okay, buddy? Like, get focused on your stuff here. I want this and that and the other thing, but no. What I should do though is like get his address and be like, okay, you know, I don't know, in the future if the shit hits the fan, kind of thing. It's like it's good to know where we're gonna get our resources and stuff. Yeah. And honey has a lot of medicinal properties. There's in China they have hospitals that use honey as a treatment form. And they do have ways of kind of mixing the honey with other medicinal herbs and plants. It's fairly well known that the Chinese have their herbal medicines and such. So I saw a documentary on it. It's just so cool. It was like, oh, that's really neat. And it's like, oh, you're talking about the Chinese. No, I'm not talking about communists. I'm talking about the government. There's an interesting thing. There was a debate on one of the, not a debate, a fight. There was like a full on argument on one of the telegrams that I'm on. And this person, I couldn't say where, but I would say like one of the dudes was like maybe from Denmark or Sweden. And he was kind of fighting with an Anglo guy, a British guy, about England and the Queen and the history of England and all this stuff, and just they were kind of going at each other, and I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, why are you fighting each other? Why are you insulting each other? Take this energy and put it against our enemies, not each other. You know, um, it's just stuff like that annoys me. It's like stop behaving like this. But I feel like that's part of that kind of high school gamer culture that I was talking about earlier. You know. Anyway, how did I go from honey to that topic? That was a little weird. Let's see. Resources. I don't know. Maybe I'm having a senior moment or something. So, as far as like comics pitches and stuff, what I would really want to do they would never go for. So I think if I were to actually get away with, you know, them accepting a show pitch, the messaging would have to be extremely esoteric. It'd have to be very, very, and even then, like, I don't know. It's like you'd think that the people really in charge would somehow figure it out. They'd be like, wait a minute, you can't say that. That's too pro-white or something. That's too pro this or that and the other thing. But another aspect of this stuff, which I find funny, is how, like, and I'm not sure if it's on Netflix or what, but the Boys, the famous show, The Boys. So it's a superhero show, and Homelander is supposed to be this evil white supremacist, and you get the idea. So the fact is that it backfired. Like the left actually gave us a meme, and without they unwittingly fed into our culture. That's just funny. So like, could I do that? Could I create a character that in the Netflix series is the bad guy, but our culture can meme him as like a cool guy, a good guy? It's interesting. Oh, da 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 da. let's see what else is going on here. Um, my neck's getting a little sore here. So, I don't know, I've been on a while here. Maybe this is enough for you guys. Let's see. Hoping that anybody had some answers to those questions. Let's take a look at the chat. I'll give you something new to look at while I'm reading the chat. It's another page. Hold on. All right, so what do we got? CP Webster says, yes, I often daydream about my writing being taken up by the media, like Netflix, etc., and being dramatized. But there is always that nagging doubt about what they would do with it. See, there you go. I would have to have some kind of a contract where I would be, like I would quit my job and I would work on set. I would, because like if you make it, you got money in the bank. Like you, I would just network my way into Hollywood or some kind of thing. I would just go that way, but I would have to have creative control, to some extent, right? But I'd be working with like the worst shitty degenerate creeps, so it would be a very tricky thing to do. And CP says, in the unlikely situation that happened for me, it would be tempting to take the dollar and run. But honestly, we should just get into a position to make our own. So, yeah, I can't disagree with that. It's just so hard, it's so hard um, to make money and have resources. I think this is our biggest Achilles heel, is that we are the plebeians fighting against the super rich class. And I feel like I've always felt like, not having financial resources is the gigantic Achilles heel. And when I see people in the movement who do have gigantic resources, financial resources, and that they're just kind of jerking off talking about their opinions, I want to slap them really hard and say you're a shit. You're no different than any other liberal Democrat rich person. You're just narcissistic. Whereas like all your money could, not all, but like you could set aside a decent amount of money to create something that actually creates change. So I don't know. I'm pretty bitter about these kinds of things, but what can I do? So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's right now. This is just put that in the speculation file. Okay, but anyway, thank you guys for joining me, and I will wish you a wonderful evening, day, night, whatever. So God bless, and see you on the internets.